Day 1 vlog, heading to London for the London Marathon. I flew out of JFK Airport with American Airlines in first class, and this was bag drop-off, totally spectacular. The security line, though, wasn't as much, and they don't have clear at this airport. But I did finally make it through, and I decided to check out the lounges. First, I went to the Chelsea Lounge, which truly is beautiful and has a sit-down restaurant, but it wasn't really my vibe, so I went over to the Soho Lounge instead. And I grabbed a buffet dinner there and relaxed before wandering around the airport and then making sure that my gate actually does exist. And then it was time to board. I was sitting in first class in seat 1A, and this seat was truly spectacular. And then it was time to take off. They served us dinner. The soup was delicious. The meat, not so much, but the dessert definitely made up for it. And then they gave us pajamas that we could change into. And I made my seat into a lay flat bed and decided to go to sleep with my favorite airplane movie on. Day 2 vlog, heading to London for the London Marathon. I got breakfast on the airplane before we landed, and then border control and picking up my bag was quite quick. Also, shout out to my Uber driver, Ebby, who was so awesome. I dropped my bags off at my hotel and then went exploring over to Buckingham Palace and watched the Royal Guards practicing. Next, I took the tube over to the ExCeL Center, which is where the Marathon Expo was. And there was seriously thousands of people there. It was way organized. I was able to get my name printed on my shirt and find my name on the list of all the runners. And then I went back to my hotel where I seriously napped for like 4 hours. And then when I woke up, I went over to dinner over at Wagamama's. And I stopped off at the Westminster Cathedral, which had a lovely tribute to Pope Francis. And also this church is way beautiful and it's definitely worth a detour. From there, I stopped off at a pub called the Albert, which is old and historic, but also really laid back. And then I went back to my hotel with every intention of going to bed early, but jet lag definitely kicked in and I was awake forever. Day 3 vlog of my London Marathon vacation trip. I slept in crazy late because I was really struggling with the time difference, and eventually crawled out of bed, made my way a block away, and went to this pizzeria, which was okay. And then I wandered around a bit. I've been to London many times and didn't want to hit all the big touristy things. However, I did want to get in some afternoon miles. But my big goal was to rest my legs before the marathon. I will admit I was shocked just how long some of the lines to these attractions were. And then I went over to Downing Street. I was hoping to see Larry the Cat, but no such luck. From there, I went back to my hotel. My tour company, Marathon Tours, was hosting an evening reception. So we left our hotel to go over to a different hotel. And they had speeches and drinks, but they didn't have food. So I ended up going to a different pizza place afterwards, after a little Buckingham Palace detour. Now, this pizza place, I definitely recommend it. They had exceptional service, and there were so many other runners in there working on their carbo loading. And then from there, I went back to my hotel with the goal of going to sleep early, but I was up forever. Day 4 vlog of my London Marathon vacation. Marathon Tours organized a half-day bus tour around the city, and while I knew my way around London, I decided this was going to be the most comfortable way to rest my legs and still see the city. We got out at a couple of cool spaces, let the bus do most of the work. My favorite spot that we went to go see was the Tower Bridge, which it was crazy to think I'd be running over that bridge soon. Next, one of my new friends and I, we ditched our tour group and we went over to Borough Market, which was way more packed than I expected. And then we grabbed lunch at a restaurant called Barrow Boy and Banker, where I got one of their famous ale pies, and I'll admit it just wasn't the right taste for me. And then I had reservations to Sky Garden, but the line was really crazy. So I canceled my reservations and I went to St. Dunstan Church Ruins, which was something I have not heard too many tourists talk about, but was definitely worth the detour. From there, I went to my new favorite restaurant, Pizza Express, and did some more carbo loading before heading into bed and trying to catch a good night's sleep. Day 5 vlog of my London Marathon vacation. It was the day before the race and my head was all over the place. But I had an awesome distraction. Marathon Tours organized a day trip over to Windsor Castle, and I hadn't been there in over 20 years. So it was fascinating to see again. My favorite part was to see the changing of the guard, but I also found it fascinating to see where Queen Elizabeth was buried and where so many royal events had occurred. And when I left the castle grounds, I then just wandered around the city. I went over to Wagamama's for lunch to do some more carbo loading. And then I just explored town. There were so many cute streets. There was a building called the Shambles, which is leaning over. And there was just a ton of really cute stores. And then we headed back to the hotel pretty early because a lot of us were eager to get ready for the next day. When I got back into town, I went over to Buckingham Palace to watch the marathon mini race with all these kids who did so good. And then Marathon Tours hosted a pre-race pasta party. And some of these runners were the most inspiring people I have ever met. And then after dinner, I headed up to my room and the big day was tomorrow. Day 6 vlog, marathon day. Okay, so I probably should have been way more nervous than I was, but there was just so much energy and excitement. And I felt like once I got there, the race started pretty quickly. And I could tell the vibes were gonna be amazing. Shout out to Lizzie, who I ran into on the course. And also they had these showers to help keep everyone cool. Yeah, those are sports drinks running ahead of me. There were so many people in costumes. Now this race started off amazing for me. Did my fastest mile since my injury. However, the downhill part of the course here was just a bit too strenuous on my ankle, so I actually took a break. I got back on the course determined to finish, but was definitely slow. In Tower Bridge, right before mile 13, you could see how empty the course was. At mile 15, the sweeper vehicle came by. But that's where I met Belinda, this amazing volunteer who stuck with me till the very end. And shout out to the people in London who stayed on the streets, cheering on even the final finishers. And while this wasn't the race day energy, talk about what a once-in-a-lifetime experience to have these streets of London all to myself. And then a huge shout out to Team Finish Together, who were over at St. James Park at the alternate finish line, where I can say I've officially finished. Day 7 vlog, day after the marathon. Yeah, so I know I'm supposed to say something inspirational, but honestly, I spent the whole day in bed, icing my ankle, and ordered in room service, and that was it. Okay, bye. Day 8 vlog, Medal Monday on Tuesday because I spent all of yesterday sleeping. So my medal and I went on a walking tour all around the city. First stop was St. James Park, and it's crazy to think that's where I finished the marathon on Sunday night. Then I continued around going to like Burlington Arcade, Chinatown, Piccadilly Circus, and Leicester Square. And while other people told me that there were still people around the city wearing medals, I didn't see anyone else, but still I was going to stick with my vibe. Then I decided to grab lunch, and I was right by a really cool recommendation. So inside the crypt of this church, there's actually a cafe, and while the menu's limited, vaulted ceilings as well as the historic tombstones on the grounds make this such a unique experience. And then I kept wandering. I stopped by a couple souvenir shops to grab a couple things. But by the end of the day, my medal and I had grabbed so many amazing selfies all around the city. So then I headed back to my hotel, and I used the Deliveroo app to order in Wagamama's. And they actually threw in some extra food. It was spent noshing along with packing. Day 9 vlog, unfortunately time to fly home. So I did a late checkout so I could sleep in a bit before heading over to London Heathrow, say goodbye to Buckingham Palace one last time. I was flying out of Terminal 3, American Airlines business class, and bag drop-off was definitely not as nice as it was at JFK. With my business class ticket, I did get access into the Admiral Club, but unfortunately this lounge is one of the worst lounges I've been in, and I'll definitely make a separate video sharing more info on that. At least the meal came with this wonderful view. And then I headed over to my gate to make sure it actually did exist. And then this was my seat. So even though this was business class and I flew out on first class, this seat was actually nicer because the airplane was more modern. And then we took off relatively on time, one last look over London, and I had pre-ordered my meal. Salad was all right. I definitely do like their pretzel bread though. And then I pre-ordered the brisket, which was average at best. But American Airlines is known for its ice cream for dessert, and it was great. And then I slept and woke up in New York.